Oprah Winfrey. Yes, Oprah Winfrey. Why does Oprah Winfrey, many blacks question this. This is the all-time favorite question, and I'm going to answer it. In relation to why does Oprah Winfrey cater to white people? Why does Oprah Winfrey cater to white people? I'm going to answer a percentage of this. I can't speak for her because she's her own person. So when she feels like it, one day she'll come out and answer that question. Possibly, who knows? But Oprah Winfrey catering supposedly to white people. Let me explain what I feel the reason why Oprah Winfrey, a woman, a billionaire of her caliber, claiming and representing those who are actually outside of her, they're of another face and another race. See, to not understand something and to not try to understand something is to never know. And yet many of these people have never actually served and worked for her. And so I'm guessing they don't know. But even me saying that is just an excuse for them. Because see, many of them should take the time and understand and know and study of Oprah Winfrey. Not just that face. There's more to these people's lives that they don't speak on. And the reason why they don't speak on is because real business people don't want to taint and mess up their image. So let me be the voice and speak on the reason why Oprah Winfrey supposedly cater to white people. And this is not a rant against the black community. But they know. They know. They hate themselves. This is where the issue is. And this is why. Okay, let's begin. Now, it's been known that Oprah Winfrey had her TV show way back, served in a seat for over 25 something years. Served in a seat, using her voice as a vehicle and a channel to bring truth into the world, to bring truth into reality, so you can understand that there are actually world problems all around us and not just in one community. See, Oprah Winfrey brought to the TV screen not just white faces, but black faces too. And issues of all kinds. The woman brought issues of all kinds to the TV screen. Truth. And yet what I've come to notice myself over the years is, if you are a person who seeks truth the way that an Oprah Winfrey seeks truth, and you want to help others and help them learn to grow in that truth and make them better individuals, what I come to realize is, as you're standing there talking, the very people who look like you, a lot of times they turn away. Not all of them, but the majority of black people, they turn away from education. They turn away. No, it's not the white man's fault or problem, because remember, freedom of choice is freedom of choice. You're free. You just feel like you're a slave, but slavery is all in the mind. There's no whips and chains on your back. So moving on. Anyways, so when it comes to this whole, why does Oprah Winfrey seem to cater to white people and not sit comfortably with people that look like her, the black community? Why does Oprah Winfrey not do it? Well, once again, the reason why Oprah Winfrey does not feel comfortable sitting with her own kind, and yes, I know this to be truth, and it makes her uncomfortable, is because she knows and understands a lot about the world, more so than the average black. And yet when she go and open her mouth and speak and try to share that information, they shun her and they disown her. Because see, to be a black individual with too much intellect and seek out knowledge and intellect for self is to be disowned by black people, because they feel that you're one with the white man. And yet, when did information become white? Information could never be white, because remember, information solves your problems. It prevents your life from going into a dark pit, struggle, and despair. It helps. Information keeps you alive. If you didn't have information to solve your problems day to day, you would have no choice but to go die. Because information solves a problem enough to keep you alive. That's why it's there. So it can never be white. Information is a gift from God, and it does not have a face. That's the point and position. See, I can't be surrounded by black folks a lot of time, the majority, not all of them, because you got many intellectuals, once again, who are not seen. But this is one of the reasons why I can't be surrounded by a lot of community of black people, because they don't think and see the way that I see. I use logic and reasoning in everything. Yes, I have emotions, but I don't live based upon my emotions. And once again, majority of black people, they live based upon their emotions. They let their emotions guide the day. That's why they're always fighting and killing each other and wanting to gang bang. See, because to live too deep in your emotions is to kill others off. Because remember, emotions have to be controlled. And yet with black people, they don't control their emotions. Because to control your emotions is to understand that logic and reasoning is responsible in controlling the emotion if you allow it. See, you got to use your brain in all this. If you don't use your brain, then you let emotion be the vehicle to destroy everything in front of you. And that's what black people do. They allow the emotions to make their decisions. And that's why they live in ruin. You get what I'm saying? And the Oprah Winfrey type, she don't live based on emotions. Because see, to live on emotions in business is to make a lot of rash decisions. And it'll help and prevent you from getting completely where you need to go. That's why Oprah Winfrey sells emotion to try to fix problems in relation to emotion, and yet she don't live on emotion, and she don't allow emotion to consume her, because she has a business to run where all races are watching her. And once again, to have too much emotion in business is to ruin yourself in business and to go bankrupt, fall into bankruptcy. Because if I live on emotions, being an Oprah Winfrey, and somebody in the office I don't get along with, or I'm in a boardroom meeting with somebody and it's one of my investors. Yes, Oprah Winfrey has investors. All of them do. She falls out with somebody that's an investor across the table from her, and her emotions come to mind. And they're in an argument, and she just walks up and slaps the investor. How you think that deal is going to go? That's a black person's mindset, is to just go and argue and slap somebody that is in business. See, me, I would never do that in business, but I might do that in my personal, because there's a great separation between business and personal. What you do on the job, you don't do at home. What you do in four walls of a building that's operating business, you don't do on the house. You don't do that. You don't fight in a business establishment. And yet many blacks do, because they're trying to prove their blackhood. And yet Oprah Winfrey, many of us is not on that. We have maybe felt that way in the past, and yet we not on that, especially like in business. But moving on. Okay, so black people, there's an issue in relation to education. If you got something important to say that can help solve some problems, they don't want to hear it. Trust me, I know. I come across blacks all the time that want to sit telling me their problems, and yet when I offer, I could be, let me tell you this. As I'm sitting talking to black people and they're telling me their problems, I have an INTJ mindset to the fact of, as they're telling me their problems, I'm able to hear their problems one ear, let that go into one ear, sink in as I'm listening to them, and I'm solving their problem in the other ear, so that I can help them at the end of this discussion. Did you hear what I'm saying? I'm listening to them in one ear discuss their whole life and the problem issue that they're having in the now. And as they're talking to me, I'm taking this in, allowing it to sink in. But here in the other side, in my other ear, I'm processing that information so that I can, I'm thinking of problems. how to solve the problem as they're speaking to me. See, I have a split brain, but not a split personality, and that's why I'm able to think the way that I think. That's why when many black people talk to me, even white people, they say, you know what, you don't think like the average black, because I don't. To have a brain like this, to take information in, hear something, and as you're hearing, you're actually solving the problem, that's a split brain, split right down the middle. So it's the same type of brain that Oprah Winfrey has. When Oprah Winfrey would sit on her TV show, the Oprah Winfrey Show, and she would listen to these people problems, it didn't have to be completely on no script or nothing like that. Notice how she would listen intently to a race of any kind. She will be listening, and she will be solving the problem as they were speaking, and sometimes will cut them off and not allow them to finish because she already knows the answer to the problem. That's a split brain. That's logic and reasoning many people don't use because they so caught up in the emotion. They're lost in emotion, dear blacks. And so, listen to me when I say this. Black people don't value education. They never have. Do you know years and years ago, way before I even existed, there's a guy, his name was Rosenberg. I have to pull the information on that. But even around Martin Luther King times and days, and even after that, there was a Jewish man, and many of them, that had started these schools so that many blacks who their parents were free slaves, and even those people who were free slaves, were to have an education. He built schools so that they can have education, so that they can learn and progress in their life and not be stuck to slavery. Yes, they were Jewish men who actually provided education to these blacks. And yet, anytime I open my mouth and I speak on that, the conversation with black people comes to a halt and a stop. Because they don't want to hear it. They rather sit around blaming the white man, although there was hundreds of schools built by Jewish and white people in the South for your very own kind to be able to pick up a book and read, because remember, these people couldn't read. And if you can't read, then the best way to be gotten over in business is to be gotten over on. Because to not know something, to not be able to read a check and manage a checkbook, is to have somebody take advantage of you and your money, to take it all away. And so these Jewish men and these white men who helped many blacks to learn and understand and read information, that was the very reason why they stepped into these black people's lives, was to prevent that. To prevent, because they already knew that slavery had existed, and yes, it was over, and yet you still have to carry on and live. They knew that there was more generations to come in the black community. They knew that. And so somebody had to plant the seed of education to open your eyes and make you aware to look. If you want to live and survive here in America, where corporations is running rampant and taking advantage of others, you must learn how to do various things for yourself and not depend on anyone else to do this. So yes, Jewish men provide them with this opportunity called education in the area of the schools down in the South that many black people fail to know and realize actually existed. The schools were built for only black people. That's all I'm saying. My gosh. There's many colleges that were actually built by white people for black people. There's one, I think, that's down in Georgia. What was I should have pulled his name. There was a very big corporate guy that was completely hated by American society because he built a monopoly, and he took He was a white guy and he was taking business from other white people. And I see his name, I just can't, I see his name, I just can't, I'm thinking of it. But those that are listening, they would know if I said his name. He had a monopoly. I'm going to make a video on him. Because for me to not be able to, I can see his name and I see his face right now. To not be able to speak it out right now, that's because my thoughts are scattered. That's why my thoughts are scattered. But anyways, what's so funny? His first name keep popping up and his face keep popping up, but his last name is not. But anyway, his wife had built a school, a college. That college is in existence right now for black people, and yet those white people is the one that built the college. In the South. A college. See, black people make so many excuses for everything. And what's so interesting, this college being in the South, as well as being as big and known as it is, these black folks, of course, they're going to brag about the college, but they're not going to brag about the fact that white folks built this college for them. A black college. White people built this black college so that there will be a black college established for black people to have something of their own. Remember, white people been investing in black people for years on end, even since before the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King. See, white people funded the Black Panthers. And blacks don't know that. Yes, Jews and all them, they funded the Black Panthers. They also funded Martin Luther King. Yes, we know. They funded a lot of things in relation to black causes. The NAACP, please don't be surprised if you find out that whites funded that as well. Anyways, BET, the channel, that was never black owned. Because remember, for a white face to own a bank, is to be a black person, a business, to go to that bank to get money and find investors and all that. So that BT was white owned just like it is now. But moving on, that was a white face investing in a black. Anyway, so moving on, education. See, black people hate to seek truth. And when you speak on truth, they run the other way. Didn't I just say this in the opening? They run the other way because they rather feel sorry for themselves. They love feeling pity. Because anytime I stand talking to you, presenting problem solving skills in the area where you can solve something and make it better, and you turn me off, you turn away and walk away, that shows a problem right there. You don't use your brain. And yet I do. And yet to stand blaming another race of people is to be foolish upon yourself, because you blame that white man and woman for all your problems and your issues, and yet that white man and woman are going off on vacation and raising their kids and moving on in life and being better as God purposed them to be. Just as God purposed you to be better and live better, and yet you won't wake up and realize your full potential because you don't want to wake up. You'd rather be a lazy bum. Good evening. And this is the reason why Oprah Winfrey in the past has not been bothered with black people the way that she should. And it's the reason why Oprah Winfrey would not be bothered with rappers the way that she would. Because to be an Oprah Winfrey and sit on the panel of discussion on a global platform and put the face of rappers who are killing and beating on their women and selling drugs to their own community and killing them off, for Oprah Winfrey to allow that to be sat on her panel, to allow a rapper to sit next to her, is to know that she endorses that. And she ain't with that. And I ain't with it either. Oprah Winfrey is not into allowing a rapper who looks like her sit across from her face to face and discuss how he done killed off his own and beat on his woman and called her a B and a hoe, H-O-E, and possibly beating on his kids and dragging his kids through the house every time he gets mad and angry. And he done ran and killed somebody And yet we don't know about it. And yet he bragging about how he just blew somebody's brain out on the album. Why will Oprah Winfrey allow somebody like that to sit in a seat across from her and sit and discuss and brag about that to her face? She can't represent that and she can't allow stuff like that to be, I'm saying in the past, not now. I'm saying in the past, Oprah Winfrey could not allow that on her TV show because she represented Martin Luther King. The Oprah Winfrey platform is actually Martin Luther King's platform. And yet black people, once again, don't know this. I have to repeat this because slow and dumb slum folks will never know nothing. They let everything bypass their eyes. Oprah Winfrey is Martin Luther King in a female body. That's why to be very global is to be Martin Luther King. Understand me when I say this. So Martin Luther King would have never been on that. And if Oprah Winfrey would have allowed a rapper of that caliber to sit amongst her, way back when she started the Oprah Winfrey show, if Martin Luther King was alive, he probably would have died right then, right in front of her face, and said, what type of have you become scum yourself, dear Oprah? That's what he would have asked her. You don't allow scum on your television show looking like you, because what the public will ask. See, it's different when white people go on Oprah. It's different when white people go on Oprah Winfrey show and get to talking about who they done killed, a white supremacist or whoever. See, because Oprah done had white faces go on her show and talk about all type of murders that whoever that they done killed. A mass murderer could have went on her show and discussed how he done mangled somebody's body. And yet that person does not look like Oprah Winfrey. You see what I'm saying? So she's allowing them in the area of diversity. She's allowing them to sit on her platform so that the world can hear what they have to say. So that the world can hear what they have to say. So that they can present their story. See, to have a global platform such as that is to let all lives present their story and not just black people. Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? Oprah Winfrey allowed white people who have killed people to be on her show and tell their story the way that they told their story so that the world could hear them. She allowed black people to do the same thing. She just didn't allow rappers to sit amongst her doing that. And another reason why she didn't allow that, because a lot of these rappers, the story is not real from the beginning. And this is why Ice Cube is mad. Could still be mad even today. If Oprah Winfrey allowed a rapper like her to sit on a TV screen way back in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, if Oprah would allow a rapper who says he killed people sit on her TV show and they look like her, because remember, it's all about the look. It's all about the image of the black face. Then what white people and even Mexicans and Asians will say, well, man, Oprah likes that type of activity and she represents it. So now we're watching her promote and endorse that. That's why she wouldn't allow Ice Cube and all the other rappers on her show, because she didn't want them to get promotion off of her. See, because if you allow a rapper to come on your TV show and he's promoting violence and killing and mangling people's bodies and blowing people's brain out while they sit in their car, if you're black and you own a global TV show like that and you allow this rapper to come on your show, what you're doing, you're helping to sell his albums. You're helping to sell his albums and you're helping to promote him. And yet if you don't believe in that type of activity, what you would do is you'll pull yourself away from that and not allow yourself to be consumed and involved in that. And that's what Oprah Winfrey did. She knew for a rapper such as Ice Cube to sit on her platform would be to promote his albums for him. And what he'll get to do is he'll get on his album after he put his face, plant his face on the Oprah Winfrey show. What he'll do is he'll go and make an album and brag about how Oprah Winfrey loved him so much. Because remember, to be big and successful is to endorse one another. and promote one another. So I understand how rappers think, their mindset. I used to be that way. I used to do it. I know that a Ice Cube would have went on the Oprah Winfrey show, showed his face, went home later on that day, got in the studio and recorded how much Oprah Winfrey loved him and how he loved Oprah Winfrey and how she's so sexy. He would have put that on the album, stamped it on the album, and sold it. And then with the black community and the white folks and everybody else would have questioned, well, how close is Oprah Winfrey and Ice Cube? Because Ice Cube claims on this album that he's more closer to Oprah than he's actually is, as well as on the same album, he's also talking about killing people. And yet Oprah said herself she don't believe in killing people because she follows Martin Luther King. So that will be the death and the demise of the Oprah Winfrey show. Listen to me when I speak. You got to listen and understand. If you don't know something, say you don't know. This is why Oprah Winfrey, and not only that, another reason why Oprah Winfrey didn't have a Ice Cube on her show is because Ice Cube was a member of NWA. Niggas with attitude. That's what Ice Cube was a part of. He was with that group. Niggas with attitude. And yet Ice Cube wasn't even real when he was with NWA. Talking about, was it F the Police? No. Was that it? Yeah, because Eazy-E was with it. That's why Eazy-E is dead too, because to put out real negative energy in that manner is to have it come back. That's why Eazy-E is dead. But outside of that, pardon my sorrow when I say that, but Ice Cube was with the NWA movement of kill the police. Kill the police. And yet Ice Cube, the story was not real. Ask him. Ice Cube will tell you right now to your face that he grew up somewhere around the suburbs. He was middle class. His father was more suburban, more so than they was ghetto and hood. And so the Ice Cube story was never real. Ice Cube, what I'm trying to tell you is Ice Cube was never a gangster. Ice Cube was never gangster. It was all just a made up story to push album sales. Because remember, majority of rap music is not even real. And people, they don't know this. And yet to work in the industry is to know. Even these rap beefs is not even real. When they say Drake and Chris Brown fell out, that's not even real. That's plotted and set up. Ask anybody that work in the industry. It's marketing and advertising to get you to buy. Because drama sells as well as sex sells. But go back to what I was saying about Ice Cube, his story not being real. Ice Cube was never a gangbanger. And the interesting part about that, Oprah Winfrey was not with that. Because Oprah Winfrey is about sharing truth on her platform so that real everyday people could relate. That's why she had real people on her show, so that others could relate. And yet to bring an Ice Cube on a platform where he has sold millions of albums talking about kill the police and all this gang banging lifestyle that he never lived, for her to promote that on her TV show and know that millions of kids is buying his albums, and yet the life is not real, is to kill your own. Oprah Winfrey could not sell that on her TV show is what I'm trying to tell you. Because if the story is not real and you know that millions of kids is buying these albums of a story that's not real, it's to have them go back out in the black community and commit this very same thing that Ice Cube is claiming to be, and yet he's not. Oprah Winfrey knew this, and she knows that today. Oprah Winfrey knows that Ice Cube's story was not real. That's why she was never on him, because he was fake. He was selling a fake image and fake package to his own to kill his own. Not saying that was his intention, was to kill his own, because remember, to work in the entertainment industry is to be ye entertained. It's to entertain the masses. It's to entertain the masses. It's to step on stage and entertain those who want to be entertained, because we need entertainment to escape our problems at times. And yet there's a positive and a negative in the way that you entertain other people that look like you and sound like you, walk and talk like you, or maybe think like you. That type of music is of a lower level and a lower energy. So what best way to sell it to other people that look like you? What I'm trying to say is a lot of these major corporations, they're not putting this violent music out to the black community just to kill people. See, to be a race of people and not want to pick up a book before, this a lot of times points back to slavery. This has not been a setup completely by some white or Jewish corporation called the music industry. No, it hasn't. Because see, when the slaves, back in the slave days, many of the slaves, when they became free, the generations later, they refused to pick up a book because they felt like they were either going to be killed and trying to learn and know. They felt like they was either going to be killed by the slave man who had died off. They were still enslaved in their mind. Or they felt like to pick up a book and read and learn and know is to become one with the white man. And so they passed that mindset down to their generation. Baby, don't pick up a book. Baby, don't go to school, because if you do, you will become the white man, the very man who has killed our past generations. Don't read and learn. That's not important. Go dance and sing. That's more important. That's why you got rappers and singers everywhere trying to be sing instead of trying to pick up a book, because this all goes back to slavery of black folks teaching their kids not to pick up a book. It has nothing to do with the music industry. It has nothing at all to do with the music industry. Trust me, I know. I said it before. Anytime I walk down the street and I try to talk some intellectual sense into somebody black, they don't want to hear it because they don't want to face themselves. Scum of the earth never want to face themselves. And so you allow them to die off as scum of the earth. But anyways, the corporations, the Jewish corporations and the white corporations, when it comes to the rap music, people say, oh, the reason why we don't have intellectual rap music on the radio station all around the globe, the reason why we don't have rap music speaking about black lives can be so much more better than where they are, the reason why we don't have black educational music all across the radio station speaking on how black people should get to know and understand themselves and realize they can reach their full potential, the reason why we don't have that, black people say, let's go blame the white man or the Jewish man, and that's not even it. See, if you don't want to learn something, as in picking up a book for yourself, if you don't want to pick up a book and you're a black face, and you don't want to hear other black people tell you the truth, something of substance and education, if you don't want to hear none of that, then that means you don't want to hear it play out in rap music. Hi. Yes, I found you with your truth. I'm saying black people, I found you. I located your truth in your failure. The reason why you are a failure. Because let me rewind this tape. Now rewinding. I am now rewinding. If you don't want to hear something of some intellectual substance by anybody, that means you don't want to hear it on a record. And to not want to hear it on a record is to allow that record deal to die out. Whoever that rapper was, who was a conscious intellectual rapper, if he's speaking about something you can learn from and yet you don't want to hear him, it's for him to be released from his contract, because remember, no one wants to hear him. And if no one wants to hear him, then that means he won't be on global radio. And if he won't be on global radio, then that no longer serves the interests of those who actually do want to hear. If that makes sense. Because see, there's many of us, well, I can't call myself black because the black folks don't even know. Why would you call yourself black if black people don't even know who they are and they don't care to know? See, I try to seek out information to know myself. But moving on. Okay, so if a rapper, and there has been hundreds of them who have been signed to record labels, Because remember, there's not just one genre of rap. There's many genres of rap. There's the conscious rap, which is educational. There's the gang banging rap. There is, which they call gangster rap. There's that dumbed down music rap, which what we have now, which is out by Lil Yachty and Cardi B and whoever else. That's the dumbed down rap. Then you got, well, I don't know too much about Cardi B, but it just all seemed the same to me. But then you got the R&B, which is more on a move like a Drake, which is rapping and singing, where rappers now feel that they can also sing. So you got different genres of music, just like white people got different genres of music. See, I hate hearing black people and their excuses. I hate hearing black people and their excuses. Just like we have various genres of hip hop, it's the same way that white people got different genres of music. They got country music. What other type of music? They got country music. I know more about country because I listen to it. So white people got country music, Nashville, Music Row. They got the pop music. You know, they got the jazz music. White people got the Blue-Eyed Soul, which was like a Frank Sinatra. Yes, Frank Sinatra would be considered Blue-Eyed Soul. I know about all that. I know about all the genres. Because I'm an intellectual and many black people ain't. Sorry if I offend you, but let me speak the truth to the dumbed down people. Not to the intellects, because it's intellects that know about this. Okay, so everything has to go in season and phases. And so with it being season and phases in the industry is to present something new. It's to hand you something new, because remember, rap music with the gang bang in the industry has always been there since the late 80s. There's an actual rapper, you can find him on YouTube, which everybody knew about way back then. Even the industry knew about him, about killing people back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, see, NWA, all them didn't, or Ice Cube and NWA, all them didn't really come along big on the scene, and Ice-T till like 1991, right? They didn't come with all that garbage till like 1991. And yet, gang banging music was a part of the industry. It always has been. This rapper had a music video and everything that was released by a major label. But see, at that time, conscious music was still big on the scene. Conscious music was still big during that time period. It was still on the scene. And then once again, gang banging music was introduced around somewhere in 1991, and a lot of black people flocked to it. They flocked to it and they fed into it because somehow it was relatable. When you say kill the police, that goes back to when white people was walking in the robes, and some still today walking in the robes, and so that was relatable to black people. Because what it represented, in a sense, was the Black Panther movement. That's what it represented. And if you don't know consciousness and how to think intellectually, you wouldn't know that NWA was trying to sell the story in the movement of the Black Panther movement. Yes, they was. Yes, they was. Because even Malcolm X walked around with a gun and saying, kill as you will. Kill when you need to. That's what he was saying. You got what I'm saying? So that's the reason why more so too, black people flocked it to NWA more so than all this other gang bang music. That's a whole different discussion. But they flocked to it because of the Black Panther theme, yes. But also because black people like to fight. And they have anger and bitterness, and they like to hold guns. Because remember, we come from Africa, where they were fighting before we got here. And they're even fighting today. What's that war that went on with them Africans? It started with a B. It's a war, and I think it's still going on right now, where Africans are killing each other. As I speak this, they're blowing each other up and killing each other and torturing each other. In a war, African against African. See, because to come from Africa a warring establishment such as Africa, to come from a place like that where it's constant fighting, is to carry it to America. It's in your genes, without even the white man needing to put it there in the form of gang banging music. Listen to me when I'm gonna rewind it. We're gonna rewind again. Africans love to fight, and yet we're African Americans. A half and half percentage of African and American. And yet to come from a land of people that love to fight is to continue to fight even without the white man. While we was being dragged on them ships, being brought to America, Africans was fighting and killing their own. Africans was fighting and killing their own before us African Americans got here. And not only that, how us African Americans got to America was through a tribal war. We got here. Many of our ancestors who were before, this was before slavery. How us African Americans got to America is because many of the Africans were actually in war with each other and caught other Africans that lost the war and then gave them away to people who didn't look like them, who was into buying and selling slaves, who practiced slaves. And those white faces brought us to America. So I'm an African American living in America, and how I got here was through African warfare. Hello? I'm speaking to you. Whoever's listening, I'm speaking into you. See, black people want to stand and tell me to my face that the white man has been planting seeds of gang banging music in our community, killing so that we can kill each other off. And yet we was killing each other off before we got to America. Because remember, to go to war, to be in Africa and go to war and have African warfare, and then drag people that look like you and enslave them to some white man you don't know. Before the gang banging music, black on black crime existed in Africa. That's why I'm standing here right now. Because see, that was criminal in itself to even be worn like that and to capture a face that looked like me and sell them to some man to ship off into a country abroad to some place I don't even know where they're going. That shows that I didn't care about my own, is what I'm saying. I was African and I didn't care enough about my own to understand that my own has been captured and I captured him, or whoever captured him, and gave him to some white man that don't look like me, and allowed that black person that looked like me to go to another land. That shows that I was a black African and I didn't even care enough about my own people. Because see, to give your own to somebody else is to know that they might die off. It's to know that your very own that looked like you might die off in the hands of somebody else, and yet you didn't care. You was too greedy. The Africans who actually captured these other Africans, they were too greedy. They were slave masters themselves. They were too greedy, and they were African, as well as Arab and white. But I'm speaking on that African who was a gang banger before we got to America. And yet he stayed living at home in his riches. He was honorable in his riches, that African slave master that sold us off. He sat at home amongst his family and his riches, and looked down on those like me and you who hold the same face as him. But because we didn't hold the position of a African slave owner, because we didn't hold the position of royalty of his status being an African slave owner, we didn't hold his status. He looked and treated us as if we wasn't his very own. Because remember, we were slaves in Africa. We were slaves in Africa. So you can never tell me that gang banging music was built by a white corporation. You can never tell me gang banging music was built by a white corporation to kill black people. That can never be told to me. And I say that because when I mention that rapper, the one that was making gang banging music in the 80s, before 1991, before Ice Cube came to be, and he was actually well known. He was tied to the industry, but not tied to the industry. More people was buying him from him putting his cassettes out before they was buying him more so than him being on a major label. Listen to me when I say this. This was before 1991. This was before the era of gangsta music. This was before the era. So that means he had a gangsta mindset. He had an African mindset, which consists of fighting and killing. And that's not to say, please Africans don't be offended. That's not to say, but a lot of times you can carry your genes from the homeland into America. You can carry that DNA anywhere. Deep within the black DNA is fighting mentality. It's fighting. It's in the DNA. It's DNA. It can be managed. Deep within white people is fighting. You had the Greeks. You had all type of races and mixing of people who were white that loved to fight and love warrior type of stuff. That's why we have movies like Superman and Batman, fighting and rescuing, as well as Greek movies. History is often retold in a different fashion. Get what I'm saying? Understand what I'm saying? But yes. So, oops, that was my car. I'm sorry. So, and not only that, see, nobody can tell me anything about this whole. See, the problem is with the black community, they don't know how to speak for themselves, represent themselves, listen to themselves, take the time to be with their thoughts to listen to themselves, because they're too busy listening to Jay-Z. So who wants to take the time to listen to myself if I'm listening to Jay-Z? And they don't take time to pick up a book. To not pick up a book is to never know, because yes, like they did say in the past, the best way to hide something from black people is to hide it in a book, because they're not going to pick it up and read it. And yet I have enough to know that gang banging actually existed. Gang banging has always existed with black people here in America way before 1991 with Ice Cube and NWA music. It has always existed because if you go back to the 1960s and the 70s, has anyone ever heard of the group called the Spades, the Black Spades? I don't know if I'm saying the name right. There was a group of gangbangers back in the 60s and the 70s and even before then. Even in the 40s and the 50s, there were black gangbangers. I didn't know this myself. I had to look it up, and what's so interesting, this information didn't come from mass media to my face and my ears. I looked it up, I seeked it out, because I needed to know what was the point in position in relation to the gangbang. And so I took the time and took it upon myself to look up, and I even delved into police records. Information, because remember, there's actually police information that is actually, there's records. Public records is just that. Public records is just that. So the police records is available for the public to actually see, and I took it upon myself to go find that information of gang bangers way back in time here in America who have faces that look like me and yet go by the name of black. Okay, so in me saying this, Oprah Winfrey knows this herself. Yes, she does. In me saying this, How could she not know? Because she's a truth seeker. Moving on. So there was always black gangbangers here in America in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Many of them used to hang out at the Cotton Club, if you know what that is, the Cotton Club, where all the black folks used to look all nice and jazzy and spiffy and go and show out and all that other stuff. Many of them was with gang banging and the mafia and all that, and killing their own for selfish reasons and intent. But back then things were covered because things was more secretive, because remember, we didn't have social media and all this other stuff. As the generations go, more information comes out, because see, the younger generation is no longer into keeping secrets. They're more vocal and open and tell all. So anyway, so I came across some police records and I won't speak on who this actual out in California. Yes, out in California, there is an actual police unit, and I won't say which one, but they were having issues because you have these black gangbanging individuals that it even goes on today with the Crips and Bloods, but even back then where they was gangbanging, right? These black individuals was gangbanging way back then, and yet they were speaking in African to communicate. They will be speaking in African in front of the guards, in front of the police guards, to communicate their illegal activity during visitation hours. So this black gangbanger will be behind bars, take the time to come out, to sit in a chair, to sit at a table, to discuss amongst another gangbanger what has been going on, right? And as they're sitting discussing what has been going on, they will switch from speaking in English to speaking in the African language. Yes, they would, so that the guards that was standing behind them watching them couldn't know and understand what they were speaking, so that they can continue to carry out their illegal activities of the gangbang. This been going on since the 50s, the 60s, even the 40s, and possibly the 30s. Yes, the 30s. This activity of the gangbang has been going on long before, since 1991. You mean tell me you sat there in front of you mean tell me you sat there in front of a officer and a guard in a jail and visitation, and you guys are sitting there discussing gangbang activities, and yet you switch to African language, which is not your language. That's what you say, black people. You say that African language is not your language because, remember, again, you hate Africa, because if you didn't, you would go back and visit and help your own, who look like your own. And yet you don't. And yet you use African language for gangbanging affair so that the police won't know what is going on in this gangbanging affair. Yet blacks will never know that, because they don't seek the information out for themselves. It's documented in police records. Police had to find a way how to deal with that, because while they were exchanging Africanese or African languages amongst themselves at visitation, these gangbangers, as they were expressing that, the police and the guards was trying to figure out what they were saying so that these people could be caught. Because remember, to gangbang amongst your own and gangbang and kill your own is to kill off your community. And yet the officers, they might not have been thinking about that part, but they was looking at the criminal illegal activity enough to stop that activity, because they're police officers. That's what they do. Their job is to handle defiant criminal activity and not to completely kill you off, as it's been said. See, many of these deaths that have actually happened by the hands of these police officers have been justified. Take a look at some of these criminal records, I'm saying, in relation to these people that have got killed by the police. Look in their criminal look at their criminal record. And see, people get offended when I say that, and yet what goes around always come back around. So if somebody planted a crime in 1994 and they get killed by the police in 2014 or 2015, then what went around came back around. It always does. And it don't always come in the form of death. And yet to have a police record, it's to allow and have that record follow you everywhere you go. I'm saying in life, outside of getting jobs and stuff. It follows you, because to never change your mindset of how you do your affairs in life in relation to the criminal activity is to repeat your affairs. If you don't change your actions, you repeat your actions, which become a cycle, and then the cycle plays out, and then what in the end up happening is it kills you. In the form of, could be gangbang activity. It could be constant citation tickets out here driving illegally. It could be driving while drunk, DUI. That's not to put down others, it's not to judge others, but to have a criminal record and to never change your ways is to live in your ways, and is to die in your ways. And I know this because a family member, actually a parent, died in his ways. So don't think that I'm speaking and judging just to say something. This person that died in jail was my very best friend, and yet they were a parent of mine. So everything I say I have a right to actually speak and say on, because I lived it. Moving on. The stuff that I know is the stuff that Oprah Winfrey know. How do you think that I got a chance to serve on the panel? I want you to tell me how I got a chance to serve on the Oprah Winfrey Global platform on a panel. Helping to make some decisions or something that makes sense so that others can learn, progress, and grow. How do you think I got there? You think I got there by being dumb and dumbed down? That type of stuff don't happen. Because remember, Oprah Winfrey don't keep dumb people around her. And yet the secret is, the majority of the black people in the black community are in fact dumb. They just don't know it. Or maybe they do. And those who are, and the blacks that ain't dumb, they took it upon themselves to move away from those who are. Dear life, I'm one of them. Can't be surrounded by the filth and the trash. Not the environment, not what's on the outside. See, the hood has filth and all that other stuff. I'm not speaking on that. See, sometimes what's in your environment sometimes can be more valuable than yourself. When I lived in the hood, in the ghetto, some of that filth and that trash was more valuable than the people I was actually surrounded by. And that's sad, and it's sad to say, because I say this because many of them don't use their brain. They choose to live dumbed down, and yet once again blame white men for it. They choose to live dumbed down, and so they're less valuable than the trash in which they stand. And so that all plays out because there's no brain involved. See, if you don't value yourself, I'm not speaking on all black people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking on all, because there's many intellectuals who our families couldn't afford to live anywhere else. And so we had to live in the ghettos and the hoods. We couldn't afford to live anywhere else, and yet we had and possessed intellect. And yet many amongst us hated it. But see, when you don't value yourself enough to think for yourself and pick up a book to learn something outside of what's on the TV screen, when you don't do that, you live in filth. You surround yourself in filth. And then you choose environments where there's filth. Because there's actually blacks who live in the hood, in the ghetto, who actually have money enough to get out and have the money and the means to get out, and yet they won't leave. Because they're filth. That's how they see themselves, as filth. They don't see themselves as nothing more than filth. And when I say that these people got enough money to leave, I'm saying If you're a gangbanger and you making all this money as you claim and you're throwing it in our face about we ain't nothing, I'm saying the rappers that got this money, some of them are actually coming close to being millionaires based upon the money from the drugs that they use to kill, to sell to their own people, to kill off, to actually kill and make crackheads, to put black, to, what's the word I'm thinking of? You got people that are gang banging and they're selling the drugs, they're killing their own, and they're causing crack babies to be born. And they live in the hood where they could actually move out. And they can not only move themselves out, but they can move others out who look like them. And yet they won't. Because they're so selfish in the area of just feeding the black community trash. Because them themselves is trash. And Oprah Winfrey knows that they're trash, which is why she won't be bothered with the trash. Why lie? Oprah Winfrey never has to say anything and open her mouth. Just let me and others like her speak on her behalf. Allow that. Because see, certain stuff like this that I'm speaking on, Oprah Winfrey should never have to say. Because remember, if people fail to want to know the truth, then leave them truthless. Let them die in that. Let them die in that. And it sounds cutthroat because it is. Oprah Winfrey can't stand around helping people outside of her who look like her, who don't want information. Listen and understand when I'm speaking to you. Oprah Winfrey can't stand nowhere giving no type of people who look like her money and handouts when they can't take truth. Because remember, if I'm an Oprah Winfrey and I go and I give some grown man who living in the hood, I go and give him $1 million. He ain't never had $1 million. So that means he don't know how to hold on to $1 million because he never had it. And yet, I'm an Oprah Winfrey trying to tell him and educate him how to do money management in the area of finances, on how to keep that $1 million that I just gave him, and yet he don't want to hear it because it's the white man's information. Then there's no reason for me to give a handout. Because to give a handout and not know what to do with it in the area of education and managing that handout is to lose it. And why would I take it upon myself to waste my dollars that I've worked so hard and I earn? I'm saying Oprah Winfrey, why would she take it upon herself to work so hard and earn this money and give it to somebody else that don't know how to manage it and don't want to know how to manage money that I give them? They'll end up throwing it away on meaningless things such as buying a new TV. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm speaking on black folks. Y'all hear what I'm saying? They go spend the TV, let their kids hit the TV with a baseball bat. Yes, somebody has did that. I know somebody that has did that. They took a baseball bat to their TV. Who does that? Put a baseball bat to the TV from the money that Oprah Winfrey gave them. Take a cell phone and set the cell phone on fire just to see how it look on fire. Based upon the money that Oprah Winfrey gave them. Went and bought a $200,000 car. Got on the expressway, went 1,000 miles an hour, and flipped the whole car over. And not only killed somebody sitting next to them, but killed a whole family, including a baby. And the baby car seat is laying out in the middle of the highway. Doing all this with Oprah Winfrey's money. They did all this because they didn't know how to manage it. And the reason why they didn't know how to manage it, because they didn't want to sit listening to her about finances and keeping it and how to manage it. They didn't want to know and understand what accounting is and what the definition is. See, accounting is nothing more than being accountable to the dollars that you have made and the budget that you have made and the money that needs to be distributed for the business affairs. This is just accounting. What I'm trying to say, accounting is nothing but record keeping. Accounting is record keeping. And most black folks don't even know that because they're not even accountable enough to themselves to say, you know what? I got a baby that needs to be fed. So instead of me going out to the club every single night and weekend, I'm going to stay home sometime and give this baby some attention. But no, they won't do that. They'd rather just be up and out in the streets everywhere as a baby is left to neglect. And yet if somebody take a story like that and put it on Oprah Winfrey of a black woman, they'll say Oprah Winfrey is teasing the black community by making fun of the black community based upon a real logical, truthful story such as that. And yet all she was trying to do was make you aware to the fact that this does exist. Because remember, to neglect a child, this happened. There was a girl who was an actual stripper. She left her baby. The girl was an actual stripper, left her baby somehow in the car or something like that, and the baby died so that she could go strip. That's neglect. And see, those issues have to be presented across the airways to allow the black community to know that you must stop doing these type of things because you're killing yourself, you're killing your own. To not be nurturing to your own child is to neglect your child. And to allow them to actually grow and evolve into dysfunctional ways. Oprah Winfrey presented stories of the black community and areas of what I'm speaking on. And people in the black community actually thought that she was shunning them when she wasn't. She was just bringing awareness to what is going on in our community. That's her point and position because, see, Martin Luther King would have wanted that. She's playing his role because somebody else won't step to the plate and play his role. Oprah Winfrey is playing Martin Luther King's role. She became Martin Luther King. Yes, she has. She had to. She had no choice. Because, see, black people a lot of times, they don't know. Yes, I can understand because of slavery. They don't know how to think for themselves enough to be their own leader. And so they have to look for other people outside of them to be a leader. Instead of them looking at Oprah Winfrey as a leader, they'll look at something like her and ridicule her because she's trying to open your eyes where Martin Luther King would have wanted to open your eyes. About yourself, not about the white man, about yourself. And areas of what you need to work on to repair yourself so that you can become self-actualized enough to make your dreams a reality. That's what Martin Luther King would have wanted. That's why Oprah Winfrey is doing what she's doing. And if it draws more white people to her than black people, then so be it. Because remember, in this life, it's about coming to know oneself. Because if you don't know yourself, you can't manage anything and you can't go anywhere and you can't evolve into anything. In the area of serving other people, in the area of business, to provide a seed and a service to others is to know who you are. And to know who you are is to manage that budget so that you don't overspend to go into bankruptcy. It's to be able to understand the accountability of yourself to handle the accounting team. Because if you don't know who you are, you can't manage who your accounting team is, your financial team. You can't even speak on the board of any type of anything with any type of financial advisors if you don't know yourself. And that's why we have no black businesses. It's not because Black Wall Street was burnt down. It ain't because of that. It's because people don't want to know themselves in a shade of black enough to hold themselves accountable to the record. Keeping record of things. Keeping record of themselves. And so this is why Oprah Winfrey had a hard time sitting amongst her own and sitting comfortably. Understand what I'm saying? Because if you are a responsible person, a very responsible person, very, very responsible person, as Oprah Winfrey is, if you are that responsible and you're sitting amongst people who are not responsible, that just leads to complete total chaos and destruction on your end. Because accountable people are often hated people. Accounted people are hated people. Because people who are accountable, they see stuff for what it is. They try to make it better. They try to improve it. But not only that, they look at themselves as it's all playing out. They're looking to see what position they play. And if they're actually feeding negativity and making, the world worse. And so to sit amongst people who can't stand that, such as black people, is to be either murdered and killed through some type of gang bang by either a black guy or a black woman. It could be a black woman. She might hate you too and kill you, pull out a gun and kill you. Because as I said before, my uncle's brains was blown out by a black woman. So Oprah Winfrey couldn't really sit amongst her own kind for too long, because to be too accountable and have that much money because you were accountable is to get killed. Because jealousy runs rampant in the black community. It runs rampant. It runs very rampant. Just look around. Everybody's killing each other, or sleeping with each other's man, or putting all over on social media. Like this girl. It was a girl in my city hometown who got killed by her husband because her best friend lied and told him that she was cheating and sleeping around. He went and killed her. And so her baby was only like what, a month old or 6 months, something like that. So the baby is forced to live without his own mother, all because of jealousy and envy. You think Oprah Winfrey wants to be bothered with that type of activity? If somebody like that, who was only a nurse, could be killed by a jealous husband who was lied to by her best friend, that supposedly she was cheating, he got mad and angry at that. If that lady was just a nurse and considered in American society to be a nobody, just look at what would happen if Oprah Winfrey sat amongst those type of people 24 hours a day. Her life would come to a standstill, a halt, and in the end it would come to an end. She'll die. She would get killed. Because that's one of the reasons why I had to move out the hood. I had to move out the hood because the very last day we were moving our stuff, I was walking down the street, and as I was walking down the street, some kid or grown man, I don't know who it was, they took it upon themselves to pull out a gun and shoot. As I was standing there, they took out a gun and shot somewhere as I'm on my way to the carryout to get some orange juice. They were shooting right where I was standing, and yet I didn't know, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to get on the ground. I didn't know anything of what to do. You know what I'm saying? I did not know what to do. And so all these people came running out their houses like, are you okay? And oh my gosh, what's going on? Still to this day, I don't know if somebody got shot and killed or if they was just playing with a gun or what was going on, because it never got on the news. But all I'm saying is I could have been killed, an innocent bystander, and that seems to happen. And yet once again, you don't ever see Black Lives Matter too much speaking about this issue needs to stop in the area of that. I knew it was time for me to leave the hood, because for me to walk to go get some orange juice, I should have been dead. That's the second time that has happened to me. The first time it happened to me, I was like 12, 13 years old at a carryout where I shouldn't have been in the middle of the night, but my uncle owned the carryout, so that's why I was there. Me and my cousin went to the carryout, 13 and 14 years old, went in the carryout, going to get some candy. Mind you, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. The carryout stays open all night. My uncle's at the counter serving people, as he should be. And all of a sudden, Crips and Bloods come flying in the store, shooting at one another. Crips and Blood come flying in the store, shooting at one another as I'm standing there in the middle of the carryout. Second time. That was the first time. But that's the second time that this whole situation has happened to me. So I'm standing in the middle of the carryout, and I had no choice but to get to the floor. But if somebody would not have screamed out, I probably would have died. Because remember, they were shooting through the store. The only reason I knew to get on that floor at that time was because somebody screamed, "Get down, the bullet has no eye." I didn't know what that meant. But when he said bullet, when that man said, "Get down," and I still hear that man's voice in my head today. I will never forget that. That was an experience in itself. When that man said, "Get down, the bullet has no eye," I could not make sense and didn't know what the definition of that was, but I heard the terminology bullet as I was hearing them bullets. And I put 2 and 2 together at 13 years old to hit the floor, because remember, he said, "Get down." That man said, "Get down." That makes me feel some type of way. It could literally put tears in my eyes, and it has, because of that man, I don't even know his face, and yet he saved my life. That man saved my life. To this day, I wonder where that man is actually at today in his life, if he's alive. He said, "Get down, the bullet has no eye." That's a powerful statement in itself. I had never heard that. I never even heard it in rap music. I never even heard that in gang banging music. And I've heard all the gang banging music you can listen to, because remember, I used to listen to that type of music because I didn't know myself. But when he said the bullet has no eye, that's a powerful statement. I never heard that. The bullet has no eye. That in itself sounds like something somebody of some high status would say, because it was so powerful. And yet this man is nowhere to be found and unknown, and he said that, and yet that quote will never make it to mass media. That quote will never be in the history books. And yet it's important for me to leave it right here on this tape and to never forget that, because once again, he saved my life. But yes, all that, Oprah Winfrey don't have time for that type of activity. She don't have time for that activity. Another piece of my story, I'm gonna make a video about that. I'm gonna keep it short though. I'm gonna make maybe a 2-minute video. I was supposed to be featured on the Oprah Winfrey show, and yet I wasn't featured because it was supposed to be about. The show was supposed to be about a makeover. And for me, you had to present your story. And my story was the issue of low self-esteem and how I was once suicidal. And so therefore, the show picked me to go on. All I had to do was send in all the photographs or whatnot and some other stuff. And yet my father didn't want me to go on because he felt like that type of information would shun and shame the family. He felt that it would make him look as if he didn't play his role in part and position in life by telling that I had such low self-esteem enough to go get a makeover. You know, that type of stuff is an embarrassment to the black family. And yet I can respect the Oprah Winfrey, because stuff like that she'll fix. If she can't fix it, she'll get her team of people, of psychologists on the outside of her, to help you fix that. And that's what I respected about her back then. That's why I wrote to the show. I took it upon myself at, I think that was that 96, 97, 98, somewhere around 98. I took it upon myself at that very young age to contact them. Yes, I contacted the Oprah Winfrey show, which is strange to be how I end up serving on the panel. Like, that's just, things happen. But yes. I hate when I hear black people say white people don't want us to have educational music in the music. I hate when I hear that, because you had a rapper like a Common. His name is Common. He came out and spoke about in his song how conscious music was replaced with gang banging music. And he spoke because he being a rapper and him representing conscious intellectual rap. The reason why he spoke on this is because, remember, he's selling intellectual music. Black people turned away from him and they stopped buying his stuff because of the simple fact it was too smart for them. And he was too much of an intellectual. What I'm trying to say is Common basically said that black people no longer wanted intellectual music because it's not cool. It's not cool. This is what Common said himself and other rappers who rap intellectual stuff that the black community can learn from. They said the reason why the rapper, not the corporation, the rapper that has sold intellectual music came out and said the reason why they are not on the radio like that anymore is because, remember, to package something in the form of intellect and a community, people such as black people, not buy it, is for that rapper to die off dead and not be able to feed himself. Because remember, there's a consumer in that as well as a buyer. And if the buyer is not buying from the consumer, then that just cuts off the lights of the buyer. And so Common had to go and write a song about the fact of, black community, you are not listening to intellectual things, and you have thrown us away in the trash, us black conscious rappers that are trying to make you aware to black issues and just intellect overall. Common made a song about that. Yet nobody wants to discuss it because they feel like a rapper like Common has become too much of the white man. I don't understand what this whole thing of being an intellect is a white man's service. Because remember, once again in America, you cannot survive without knowing something to be able to manage your dollar so that you can eat. That's intellect in itself. And yet, guess what? Black people don't even know that. Not all of them. The intellects know, that's why they're where they're at, including myself. But the dumbed down black folks, they don't know that if you're managing your money enough to say, you know what, I need to take these funds and make sure I got enough to go grocery shopping, I'm actually managing myself, and that's accounting right there. That's budgeting right there. And yet blacks, they don't know, they don't want to know. Because they're focused on something else. They will be more so focused on the food, more so than focused on the dollar. See, that's where it needs to end with black folks. It needs to end with the focus being on things all the time. In place of the focus being on things, it needs to be more set on your brain and feeding your mind. Because to never feed your mind is to never progress further than where you are in the trash and the filth. Don't blame any whites, because I don't want to hear it. White people have been good to me. And I can say this in the area of anytime I open my mouth and I get to talking about something that is to build you and make you better, white folks stand and listen. Where black folks walk away and shun me and ridicule me. And this is the very reason why Oprah Winfrey has more white followers, or had in the past more white followers than she had black followers. That's the reason why. And I'm repeating again. Because if you don't see, everything in life is about building something. And yet if you don't have critical thinking skills, how could you build anything? Because see, to try to build something such as a house and not have the critical thinking skills enough to put the house together piece by piece, layer by layer, roof by roof, to put the house together, to have critical thinking skills, to not have that enough to know how to build, is to have a lopsided house. And what a lopsided house does is it comes crumbling and crashing down. A house cannot survive and live on by chaos, which is the moving and the swaying back of a house which has not been built properly. See, it takes knowledge and wisdom and understanding what I just said. Yet blacks, many of them can't even understand. They won't be able to process it. And I know that because the reason why I'm speaking on this is because I have blacks who tell me all the time, when you talk, you need to slow down because I can't process everything you're saying. That's what I'm told. That they cannot process what I'm saying as I'm saying it. And yet all this is common sense. How could you not process what I'm saying? The very thing which is common sense, which is the very thing called life itself. A child can understand what I'm saying in the area of building something from the ground up until there's a roof at the top and laying each piece directly as it's supposed to lay, stable and sturdy and sustainable enough that nothing comes crashing down. A child can understand this because children play with Legos. There's children all over the world right now playing with Legos. Many of them playing with Legos because, see, a child mind holds curiosity. And I think that's what's wrong with black people. They're not curious enough. They're not curious enough. See, to stand curious enough is to want to know why the Lego is even a Lego. See, a Lego is there for a reason, to teach children how to build. Because life is all about building. Life is all about a beginning process and an ending process, as well as a middle process. And the middle, that's where the balance is. I'm saying it holds right there. So that you could have on the left and you can have on the right and each come to balance. Have you ever seen a seesaw? How when children sit on a seesaw and you see one child go up and another child go down and then the other child comes back up and the other child comes down. That center is what makes everything such of a balance. And so in relation to life itself, it's the building factor. From going from A to Z, you got to build to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying in the area of building? And even using information to build yourself. There's points in this. That's what I'm trying to say. There's points in this. You don't just be born and then just die. It's progression in the middle. Whatever you serve yourself every day is helping you to grow into some type of person. And only you know what that person is. Only you know. And yet others who are around you or who surround you, they know as well, based upon how you treat them. If you treat them good, they treat you good. If you treat them bad, they treat you bad. But yet there's still some that you treat good, they treat you bad. You treat them bad, they treat you good. Give and take. Building. Life is all about building. And if you don't know about building, you'll never make it. That's why you got black folks killing each other. Because they don't understand the building process. To put out bad energy is to receive it back. Has to come back. That's building as well. Because see, if I put out a bad energy towards others that look like me, that energy will stop whatever I'm building. It has to. It will stop my progression. It has to. If I'm out here and I'm gang banging or whatever else, or I'm killing somebody or acting stupid towards people who are my own kind, who have not done anything personal to me, or even if they have, if I'm out here just killing people, there's no building in that. There never could be any building in that. Not on my end or not on their end. Because on my end, if I give them that bad energy, if I serve it to them, it stops my steps. Because I just put that bad energy out And now it's on the way to coming back to me. And once it comes back to me, I'm going to be slighted, which means I'm going to stop. And I'm going to start viewing life itself in a negative way, in a negative image. I'm going to view life in a negative way. And therefore, I'm going to start greeting people in a negative way. And as I'm greeting people in a negative way, they ain't going to want to be bothered with me, because my sole intention is to kill other people in place of speaking the truth, living the truth, knowing myself, understanding myself. Oprah Winfrey knows this. She knows. That's why she sit amongst people a lot of times who are not her own kind, because they think on the level of what she thinks. Remember, like-minded thinks alike. Like-minded individuals think alike. So if Oprah Winfrey is surrounded by nothing but white people, when she's out here doing certain things, she does stuff for black people. Black people act like they don't even see that. They bypass that. But if Oprah Winfrey is sitting amongst white people, then she must have something in common with them. And maybe it's her mind. It's her mind. It's not her trying to be white. It's her mind. See, because you can only hold a conversation so long with people that have nothing in common with you. That's common sense, and yet many black people don't know this. They figure when you don't want to be bothered, then you just don't know them, and that you care not to know them, and that might be half truth, but that's only 5% of the truth. The other 95% of the truth is we have nothing in common. And to not have nothing in common with the people that you have nothing in common with is either to go sit alone and be by yourself all the time, despite us knowing that we are in fact tribal beings. We roamed in tribes in the past, so we actually roam today, even with faces that don't look like us. So if I can't sit with people that I have nothing in common with, then I gotta go somewhere and be with people that think like me. And that's what Oprah Winfrey did. She went and she sat with people that thought like her. When you watch her and you listen to her in the past, her old TV shows, go look up her old TV shows. When you listen to her and you watch closely, pay attention how she interact with certain people precisely and attentively. She listens and she zones in and pay attention and allow herself to be aware to what they're saying. And yet to others, she completely zone out and she holds no sympathy for them, because all they want to do is feel sorry for themselves. And I'm speaking on many black people. See, Oprah Winfrey a lot of times listen to white folks attentively because they listen to her attentively. They don't just walk past her as she's speaking informative information, which is something that they can use to make themselves better. White folks don't do that to Oprah. They take that information and they value it. And not only that, they love on her and value her even the more for the simple fact that she would take it upon herself and her time to share that information. Because see, she didn't even have to do that. She didn't even have to take that information and share it with them. She didn't have to give information to white people like that. She shared it just as equally with black people. And yet black people once again turned her away and shunned away on her. They removed her. She didn't remove herself. They removed her. Because anytime you look a certain way, some people might say, oh, Oprah is not the most attractive. Whatever. She is what she is. She's made the way in God's image, the way God felt that she should play out. God made her that way. Get off the looks. Anytime you have a group of people who are black, the black community, and you got something important to say, and yet they don't listen to you as you're saying it, and they don't want to hear you, and they don't want you to be heard. Because, see, to be heard about a problem is to fix a problem. And yet, once again, blacks would love to just keep the problem that they have. I come to realize that, and I come to know many a times. So once again, black people have actually removed Oprah Winfrey from the black community. It's not the other way around. Oprah Winfrey didn't move herself away from the black community. No, she didn't. Because like minds are drawn to like minds. You can't have a high level of intellect and sit down with dummies. And I don't mean all blacks, because once again, intellects do exist. I'm one. You can't be a genius the way that Oprah Winfrey is in the area of marketing, advertising, psychology, but more so listening to others. You can't have that gift and possess it and sit with those that don't honor the gift. You have to go sit with somebody else. It is what it is. Because if you don't go sit with somebody else, that gift will die out. That dream that you had will die out. Everything will die out. That's why you leave the black folks in the black community to kill themselves. You allow them to kill themselves and step on their own faces. Because remember, even that is African. It's not the white man, it's African. I didn't even know until over the past few years, I didn't even know how many black folks don't even sit and research Africa. And yet sit blaming the white man. How could you sit and blame a race of people that don't know you, that possibly don't want to know you, but more so you don't even know yourself enough to take it upon yourself to study Africa, the very land that you came from. The very land that you came from. And see, the black community will never be a cohesive. So let it go. And the reason why I say this, I say the black community will never be a cohesive in the whole. I say this because blacks was never cohesive from the beginning. I could literally cry about it. Black people were never cohesive from the beginning, because remember, to be placed on a slave ship and be brought to America is to come from different groups. Before you met that slave ship, you were not in the same group and not in the same tribe. And many didn't even have the same skin complexion. Some was lighter than others, and some was darker than others, and some was medium tone, such as mine. So the black community can never be a cohesive. It was broken from the very beginning. I'm gonna make a video about this after this video. The black community has always been divided and non-cohesive, because to come from different tribes is to never get along with one another. See, common sense doesn't even come through and speak through to black people. That's why I can't really call myself black. That's why I have to call myself gold, because I can't blend in with a group of people that don't even know the fact that we came from different groups with different ways of thinking and different ways of tradition. See, tribes in Africa, they don't all think the same. And they don't all follow the same script. And they all don't have the same mentality. Because to be of one tribe and be of another tribe, and to be of another tribe and to be of another tribe, is to practice a whole different thing outside of each tribe. And yet the black community always wants to say, we. How come we can't get along? All blacks' lives matter. How come we can't get along? Because you were never getting along in Africa, and you still not getting along in Africa. That's for the Africans. If an African watch me, my mom is in Africa right now, so I should know this. I should not be a fool. I should take it upon myself to get to know this information. And even Oprah Winfrey knows this information. Because to have a school in Africa, South Africa to be exact, where she's not actually seeing tribes and yet she has witnessed them, is to know that those tribes have various mindsets. They sit in a group with one another. And yet just because that tribe and 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 that tribe, just to know that since they're all different tribes don't mean that they all think the same and that we all need to be we. We don't all need to be we as a whole collective. Because see, the different tribes was divided for a reason. There was a tradition behind that was passed down the lineage. And see, black people don't know this. And that's why they fail to get along, because they don't know this as well. You can't operate in something you don't know. You can't come together. You can't come together under something if you don't know what it is. And it exists. See, tribes in Africa still exist. Don't we know that? See, did you know the average black person doesn't even know that not all of Africa is poor? There's rich parts of Africa, all over Africa, and not just the poverty you see on TV. And that Africa has clear ocean or clear water, ocean. Africa has clear oceans. My mom is sleeping in a house right in front of an ocean, or right in back of an ocean, or wherever, right next to an ocean with nothing but clear, pure water. And there's no filth. And yet the majority of African Americans don't know this because they don't take the time enough to go study outside of Jay-Z. And that's a sad part, because the sad part is on their end for their family. See, Jay-Z and Beyonce, they're planting legacy for their family. They're planting legacy for their own daughter and their own child. And I'm sure Beyonce know this information as much as I do about the whole tribes and why we can't come together. I'm sure she know that. I really don't care too much for Beyonce like that. It's just not it's not that I hate her, it's just not a personal taste or whatnot. I go for substance. But Beyonce and Jay-Z, they're building a legacy for their child. Something that she can hold on to. Right? And yet, many of these black people that sit watching Jay-Z and Beyonce built a legacy for their child and their twins. As black people sit watching them build their legacy like that, the very black people that's watching them have no legacy of their own. That's scary. They have no legacy of their own. And that plays in as well to the division of the black community. Despite blacks will never be cohesive, that also plays a role into that as well. See, because to never build something for your own family members, I'm speaking on, to never build something for your own family member and children to never build some type of legacy for them is just to never have. And that gets passed down through the generations. Oprah Winfrey knows this as well. She ain't gonna speak on it. It's a lot of things that Oprah Winfrey know that she will never speak on. That's why with Oprah, that's why she practiced meditation and going to be alone with her thoughts, because sometimes you can know so much it can drive you crazy. Oprah Winfrey knows a lot of things. She knows a lot of things. She has to go silence her mind so that she don't get mixed in with the chaos. Because see, sometimes even knowing too much and being a woman of that caliber could be enough to break you internally. It can break you because see, from a far distance, you want to save a group of people. I'm speaking on Oprah Winfrey. You want to save a group of people who don't want to save themselves. You actually want to save them with your money and your finances and your resources. You want to help save them. Like a superwoman or a superman, being a woman in the body that she is, she wants to save them, and yet she knows she can't. Because for her to try to save everybody in the black community is to tank. It's to go down. It's to have a heart attack. It's to have a stroke. Because remember, black people have real black problems. And the one of the main issues is start with them calling themselves black. Because see, black means darkness, death, and destruction. In my eyes, that's what it means. And despair. Because all things hold some definition, even color. See this sweatshirt I got on? It's black. I like the color black. And not because blacks use it as a representation of black community. That's not why. But even the color holds some type of definition. If you hold on to the past and you never break yourself from the past of the past struggles, then you will continue to just relive the past of self-defeat and doubt. And Oprah Winfrey knows this and she sees it. And yet her being the caring, kind-hearted person she is, she knows she can't save all those people. It will lead to her own demise once again. It will kill her off. It has to. Because to spend up all your resources to save a group of people who ain't took one footstep to try to lift, to save and rescue themselves, it's to know you're going to die in that. Because they want to see you dead in the first place. Because they see your face is black and yet your mindset is white. That's what they say about Oprah. They say her mindset is white. And so you get killed. Because you start speaking too much information. You start speaking too much of what you know and how you feel about stuff. And as you're speaking stuff, this being Oprah Winfrey, as she's speaking stuff or all the intellectual stuff she know, black people will tell her, you know what, you have a white man's mindset. We need to murder you right now. Because you represent him. And you're doing nothing for us. So yes, she can't sit amongst them. She can't. She does film and TV and stuff like that. But when it comes to some of her closest friends, and many of them can be black, but they hold the mindset she has. They have to. Can't sit with people that don't have your mindset. It kills you. I think that's all I'm going to say about it. But that's why Oprah Winfrey is the way that she is. She can't sit around, feeding and clothing everybody here in America that has a black face like hers. She cannot do that. It does not happen. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't happen. And that's been purposed by God. Everything happens for a reason. Everything serves a purpose. Oprah Winfrey can't be found nowhere in nobody's black community doing all these shelters. And I don't mean shelters. When I say shelter, I don't mean an actual shelter establishment. I'm talking about the black community where they feel like they're homeless. See, you could be an individual and stand there and speak and yet be completely homeless, and yet you don't even know because you're not taking the time to learn and understand who you are. So a person that don't know themselves and are not working on trying to know themselves, them are actually homeless people. And yet they don't walk the streets all at night and all during the day looking for food and looking for some place to stay. They're not doing that. They live in homes like you and I, called the black community. They're homeless. They're lost children and lost examples. And they feed those lost examples to their children. And what happens is their children grow up and they put forth destructive activity. I know because I've been there and I've done it. I had to change my ways. In order to survive and live long, I knew I had to change my ways. But yes, this discussion over Oprah Winfrey. Ask any black man or woman why Oprah has went all the way to South Africa to build a school for children who don't have parents, because many of them, the parents are dying from HIV and AIDS and much more. They're just dying, period, as people die. Ask any black man or woman why they're angry and bitter about just that. And they will tell you that Oprah hates her own kind. And yet they're so selfish at the fact that if a child is in Africa and their parents have HIV and AIDS, and they no longer have someone to take care of them, and they need someone to help educate them so that they can live and so that they can help take care. Because see, many of these kids that are in Africa have younger brothers and sisters, and if their parents have died, then they need that older brother or sister to help guide and lead the way so that they can survive and eat. And so that older brother or sister has to go to college. They have to do something with their life to provide instead of living in poverty and repeating a curse of poverty. And so somebody has to walk up and hold their hand and say, you know what, child? I am going to help get you educated, and I'm going to pay for your education. That way you can take care of your brothers and sisters. That way that they can survive. Because your mother and father dying would have wanted me to. They would have wanted me to. They would not have wanted me to be a big billionaire being Oprah Winfrey on the TV screen, seeing this and just walk away from it, knowing I got the resources that I can provide and make your life better. Because your brother and sister is only 2 or 3 years old, and yet they have no example to follow. So let me be Oprah Winfrey and take it upon myself and guide you and help you live in the sense how I live, so that you can guide your little brother and sister to live the way that you live, so that they don't die out. And so that when y'all have kids, y'all can be an example towards y'all kids. What actually what Oprah is building is a legacy in Africa, where many black African Americans failed to go build a legacy. Once again, just because you're disconnected from a land don't mean that you don't need to know it. You got what I'm saying? Because see, anything can happen in America where you're actually forced to leave this country and go back home to the motherland, which is Africa. Anything can happen in America. And that too is why over in Africa, as I said before, why they're trying to have African Americans get dual citizenship over in West Africa, and they want many of us to come back home, right? But anything can happen here in America for white or black people. See, white people, they will probably go back to Europe or go anywhere. Some of them might actually go to Israel, who knows? But anything can happen here in America, where we're all forced to flee, and we got to go somewhere when we flee. And for us that look like us, and many black people, as you call yourself, you might be forced to return home to Africa. And then what? It's a little too late by then to try to get to understand and know laws over there, and try to get to know the traditions of various people over there that are going to help you. It's a little bit too late for that. It's a little bit too late to try to understand how their hospital operate, because to flee somewhere is to end up traumatized or damaged on the way and have to greet a hospital and have to come and know and understand how that hospital operate and know the location of where the hospital is on top of that. So it's a little bit too late to try to know all this when you could be understanding and studying and knowing right now. And yet, once again, blacks don't want to know that, and yet they hate Oprah Winfrey for going over there doing everything that she's doing for those girls, instead of her doing that stuff here in America for black kids. Well, she tried that already, and yet many of them was not interested, because once again, education is something that is not valued in the black community. It's not. It just is not. And yet for them African girls all the way over there in Africa, they value education. They crave it. The Africans of where Oprah opened that school, they crave that information. They eat it like it's food. Some of them girls that Oprah is helping to educate, they eat that education more than they eat meals on a plate at the dinner table. Because it stimulates their mind enough to see that there's a world outside of where they're living at, in poverty and filth or whatever else. That's why them little African girls crave that information. See, to be in a place like Africa and know that people is dying all around you from diseases and AIDS, and heart attacks because of the stress, and a stroke because of the stress of living in Africa with the poverty and filth, is to know that you got to escape that. And you don't escape it by going to use drugs. You escape it through information and studying, which is a book. You use a book in Africa to escape that for a while, just for a little while. You don't escape it completely, because then your little sisters and stuff will not be taken care of. But you escape it just a while, just to ease your mind. See, African little kids, when they study and they crave information, that education, it soothes their mind. It soothes their mind, because once they put that book down, what ends up happening is they go in that bedroom and they greet their mother or their father who is dying of AIDS or dying of something, or who is not there, and yet the grandmother is taking care of them and she's dying and sick of something. They greet that. And so in order to escape that, they just go pick up a book. They pick up something. They pick up a piece of paper. It could be anything that's readable. And they pick it up, and that comforts their mind. It takes all problems away for just a while. But as they're reading it and they make a habit of the reading, what ends up happening is it starts to build them internally. It gives them a level of confidence and self-esteem all the way over in Africa. And the turmoil and the trauma of starving kids and the trauma of the HIV and AIDS epidemic, that information, it builds them. It builds them. It builds their mind. Because see, to take up in so much information living in Africa is to say, oh wow, what is this? That is so intriguing. I want to go seek out more. And now after I seek out that, I want to go read and study and research such and such. Ooh, you know what was happening in America? They said, over in America, there's many kids that are like me, and they like to tell stories, and they like to read books and watch movies. So I need to know, what are those movies? What are those movies? What are those Disney movies about? I might not have a TV, and yet I can go get a book about that. Because somebody provided a library enough for me to actually go get the book about the Disney movies and films and pictures that the kids in America are watching. So them kids in America, they must kind of be like me, because they hold the same interest of me, which is this whole Disney picture. Because remember, in Africa, just because there's poverty, it doesn't mean that Disney is not there. Even Disney prints books. That's what I'm trying to say. Even Disney prints books. And these young African kids, they fall in love with that type of stuff. They fall in love with that type of stuff, and they come to realize and put the pieces together as they're reading books of various topics, even Americans. As they're reading about Americans, they're finding out that many American children hold the interest that they have. And yet it's not spoken in that Disney book, but it's spoken in another book about American culture and pop culture. See, this type of stuff Black people never want to discuss because it's too much for their mind. And I understand it, because sometimes it's too much for my mind. And yet it's not enough for me to sit here and say, scratch that. You know what? Oprah Winfrey is who she is. Allow her to be that. You gotta allow that woman to be that. Because see, she think like I think. We think alike. But once again, to hold a global platform that big, oftentimes you got to watch what you say. Because see, she got herself in trouble in relation to the meat, the beef, that beef scandal, the meat market. She got herself in trouble with that. Oprah Winfrey has to always watch what she say when she's releasing it, because see, even the journalists and mass media don't always have Oprah Winfrey's best intent. They don't always have many of people's best intent. And I'm not saying that mass media are looking for negative, but that's how they make their money. They don't personally see when an Oprah Winfrey come out and speak against a meat market. The journalists a lot of times are not going to aim for her because they hate her. No, they're going to aim for her because that story of negativity can make them more money. And so they can put her out in a negative light and trash her image, because to trash anything and present trash is to make more money. It is. So don't get it twisted. When I hear, when I hear, well, white people just trying to ruin Oprah, or how is that so if a lot of them love her? How can mass media, all over mass media, be really trying to ruin Oprah Winfrey when many of them love her, even the ones that's working behind Fox News and them other high-ring corporations? How could they be trying to ruin her, and how could they be jealous of her when they're sitting behind closed doors amongst her, holding conversations? Understand how a game of mass media and the system work. Understand it. To put trash on a plate and serve it to humans, the public, about the public figures, to present waste matter and negativity about a public figure is to make more money for that corporation. Corporations don't sit around in emotion, and yet black people do. Corporations a lot of times don't say, you know what, I hate Oprah Winfrey, so let's just target her. If that was the case, you would constantly see Oprah Winfrey all over the news all day, plastered in negative imagery. You'll see constantly, if that was the truth, that white people really, really hate and are trying to destroy Oprah Winfrey, you would constantly see Oprah Winfrey bashed all over the TV screen via mass media. And when it comes to this Trump situation, you got to understand the game the way that I understand the game. Oprah Winfrey knows what's going on, because see, in relation to some of this mass media, a lot of Oprah Winfrey team is writing certain things and releasing it to mass media that the public don't even know. Because remember, to stay relevant in the industry is to be seen. In any type of way you can be seen. Whether you want to paint yourself in a negative or you want to paint yourself in a positive. Is a relevancy in that. And celebrities as well take it upon themselves to do just that. Because remember, if I provide information to people and it's the truth and they don't want to hear that, and they're more drawn to gossip and they're more drawn to dirty laundry, then I have no choice to take it upon myself as a public figure to release that type of stuff. To set it up with that person that I'm supposedly in a feud with and release that to the media. So that all millions of people can see, because remember, majority of the public is drawn to drama, chaos, and destruction. They like that. They feed on garbage, and more so black people. They feed on that type of stuff. They feed on, why you think we got so many rappers out here talking about a rap beef? Where such and such, as I said before, as such and such rapper and singer got in an argument, and yet that story is not real. Majority of them stories are not real. They've been planted. Because even that is a part of their legacy. You got what I'm saying? Whether it's a positive or negative, the celebrity is releasing the stories themselves. And they're making meetings with the actual person they're supposedly fighting against. They're in meetings with those persons setting that up. It has to be set up and orchestrated. The celebrity life is completely orchestrated. On the TV, it's orchestrated behind closed doors and business meetings. And most people don't know this, and they will never know. Oprah Winfrey, everybody has to do this, because you can't just release something and drop it on the plate to public people that's watching mass media, because see, anything can go wrong in that situation. Listen to me when I'm saying. You can't drop anything in mass media and say, let me throw this out here and make a feud with somebody, and I'll sit back and watch how that goes. No, it don't happen like that. It's set up. Everything's plotted and planned. When it comes to Donald Trump and Oprah Winfrey, everything is plotted and planned. Because you got millions and billions of people watching you, and anything can go wrong with that situation. That's why it's orchestrated. It always, any media of that caliber where two people are in a fight and a feud and they're celebrity public figures, it always has to be orchestrated, because there could be a downfall for somebody in that. It could go completely wrong. So it has to be guided out step by step. It has to be completely orchestrated. I did the industry, so I know. Still do, so I know. All of it's orchestrated. All feuds and fights with celebrities is orchestrated. Release a story, come with a follow-up. Come with another follow-up, the follow-up with that follow-up. Take a response, wait a few weeks after you presented the first story, because if you respond too quickly, then those that's watching the media will know something is wrong with this story in the area where it don't add up. That's why it's all orchestrated. Every media story is orchestrated with celebrities. Not in relation to the news and all that other stuff. That's real story stuff. But celebrities is all orchestrated. So basically, the celebrity life, all of it is interesting. I got family right now in the industry, whatever. Not speaking on that. But yes, so you gotta allow people to be themselves. But more than anything, you gotta want better for yourself. You can't stand around sitting waiting for somebody like a Oprah Winfrey to give you a handout. That makes absolutely no sense. And yet the handouts that she giving to them African girls and them African babies is the best gift she could ever give anybody. Because a legacy is going to come out of that. That's what's so special about the gift of Oprah Winfrey giving to Africa. That's the most greatest gift. Because not only is she guiding those girls, she's taking care of them. That's why they call her mom. They do. They call Oprah Winfrey, they consider Oprah Winfrey their mom. Because many of them no longer have a mom. They call her on the phone all hours a day. They hold long conversations. They be all on Skype. Yes, they be on Skype. Oprah Winfrey and her daughters over in Africa be all on Skype, FaceTime. Did I say Skype? FaceTime. Skype, FaceTime, all that. They be on there discussing stuff. Discussing the schoolwork that they having issues with. Problems, family problems. They get on Oprah and they discuss it all. No filter. Constipation, the girl, if she got constipation, they get on a camera, on a FaceTime or Skype with Oprah Winfrey and discuss that. Because remember, she's their mom. So she can sit talking to them about the fact that girl has constipation. Oprah know how to handle that, because remember, all mothers do. Oprah didn't have kids for various reasons, and yet I feel God wanted it that way. Because sometimes to have children, to be a billionaire that big, or a millionaire on the way to billionaire and have children, it's allowed them children to get in the way of a greater purpose of what she's doing. And not only that, they get in the way of what she's doing today for those African kids and them African babies. Her children, her grown children, would have probably gotten in the way of Oprah going over there and serving them children in Africa at that school. Because remember, to have children is to not always agree. I'm saying your children. Sometimes they don't agree with your decisions. So Oprah children, they might have actually not wanted her to be in Africa helping other kids. And there might have actually been some jealousy if she would have had kids. They might have been jealous based upon the fact that she spent more time trying to groom and prep those girls for adulthood instead of spending more time with her own kids. So I feel God had intended that, as well as intended for her to be there with those young girls. Because HIV and AIDS is a very devastating thing. It comes quick for others and slowly for others, depending on the situation. So yes, I think that's all to be said about that. Oprah Winfrey can't say certain things of what she can't say. And even with her, I signed non-disclosure when I did the OWN network. And right now I'm with Discovery, but I signed Discovery Communications. I signed non-disclosure in relation to her. And so I don't speak on certain things in relation to that, but I can speak on her mindset and what she represents and why she does the things that she do and the way that she do them. Everything that has been said on this tape right here, it has been said, and it purely is what it is. It's the truth. And if she watches this back, she will never be disappointed by what I said. Oprah Winfrey can never be devastated over what I said right here on this video, because it's all spoken in truth. And that in itself might could actually break her down in the mind at times as she's sitting in silence over all the issues in which I spoke on and the lies of which I spoke on in the area of where black people lie to themselves over the white man always hating them. I can't even speak on when Oprah puts out certain things in relation to white racism that she has experienced that. Who hasn't? When she speaks about that, she's telling her story, but there's even more to that. Because she's black, she has to put it out. You got what I'm saying? About the racism. She has to put that out, because if she don't, it's to mess up Martin Luther King's legacy. She has to put that out, because see, I can go in any corporation right now myself and experience racism. It happened before and it has happened. And yet it's not as big as many would want to come to know or realize. It's not as big. So when Oprah put out racism that she has experiences, yes, but a lot of times it's not that big, because remember, once again, mass media makes everything larger than life. But she's just telling the personal experiences of what she has gone through. And as she's sitting talking sometimes with friends who are actually white friends, some of them love her for Oprah that she is. And yet they don't like her and maybe hate her because of her skin color, and yet they love her personality. Yes, you can be friends with white people who are in fact racist and will take the time to get to know you and love your personality and yet hate your skin color. Because either how they was raised or how they were taught, or just because they don't like black people. And I say this because Oprah has friends. And I've had friends along the way. I'm not saying Oprah has friends now, but along the way that she has come to be around, and I have come to be around,